In the pantheon of space pioneers, few names evoke as much reverence or mystery as Sergei Pavlovich Korolev. Known only as the chief designer during his lifetime, Korolev was the guiding force behind the Soviet Union's most significant early space achievements. From the launching of the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, to the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin, Korolev's work reshaped global geopolitics and altered the trajectory of human history. Yet unlike his American counterparts such as Wernher von Braun, Korolev's identity and influence were largely kept secret until after his death in 1966. His life was a narrative of brilliance shackled by repression, perseverance forged through suffering, and visionary leadership that transcended the limitations of his time. Sergei Pavlovich Korolev was born on January 12, 1907, in the city of Zhytomyr, in what is now Ukraine, then part of the Russian Empire. His parents, Pavel Korolev and Maria Moskalenko, were both educated but eventually separated when Sergei was young. His mother remarried, and his stepfather, a teacher and intellectual, encouraged his academic development. This early period was marked by the turbulence of revolution, civil war and famine, events that deeply imprinted on Korolev's psyche. Despite these hardships, he demonstrated early aptitude in mathematics and mechanical design. At the age of 17, Korolev enrolled at the Kiev Polytechnic Institute, where he studied aviation. He later transferred to the Bauman Moscow State Technical University, one of Russia's most prestigious engineering schools, where he studied under the legendary aeronautical designer Andrei Tupolev. Korolev's passion for flight was ignited during these years, and he joined amateur gliding clubs. His diploma project was an operational glider, a prescient beginning for a man whose designs would one day soar beyond Earth's atmosphere. In the late 1920s and early 30s, Korolev became involved with the Group for the Study of Reactive Motion, or GERD, one of the Soviet Union's earliest rocketry organizations. Here he collaborated with other visionaries like Friedrich Zander, who famously coined the phrase "to the stars." This group experimented with solid and liquid fuel rockets at a time when most of the world dismissed rocketry as a fringe fantasy. Korolev's first notable contribution was the GERD-09, a liquid-fueled rocket that achieved a short but successful flight in 1933. That same year, GERD merged with the Gas Dynamics Laboratory to form the Reactive Scientific Research Institute, where Korolev continued his work on rocket-assisted takeoff and high-altitude flight. During this period, he also published theoretical works and formed contacts with Soviet military officials who were beginning to take an interest in missile technology. His future seemed bright, but the shadows of political repression were growing darker. In 1938, during Stalin's Great Purge, Korolev was arrested by the NKVD, the precursor to the KGB, on false charges of espionage and sabotage. He was beaten, interrogated, and condemned to the infamous Kolyma labor camp in Siberia, a place synonymous with brutality and near-certain death. There he endured malnutrition, forced labor, and frostbite. The once brilliant engineer lost most of his teeth, sustained lifelong heart damage, and nearly died of scurvy. In a bizarre twist of fate, his former colleague Valentin Glushko, himself under pressure, testified against Korolev, only to later support his transfer to a Sharashka, a secret R&D facility operated by the NKVD, where imprisoned engineers were forced to work on military technology. Despite the circumstances, Korolev contributed to the development of jet propulsion systems for Soviet aircraft. Korolev was quietly released in 1944, but his reputation would not be restored until much later. This period was traumatic, but it forged in him a deep, steely determination and urgency that would characterize his future endeavors. After World War II, the Soviet Union became intensely interested in German V-2 rocket technology. Korolev was sent to Germany to oversee the capture and analysis of German missile expertise. Working under a new secret identity, he spearheaded Soviet efforts to reverse engineer the V-2 and eventually surpass it. Korolev's crowning achievement in this era was the R-7 Semyorka, the world's first intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. Although its military applications were limited by its cumbersome size and launch time, The R-7 was revolutionary in its power and design. It featured strap-on boosters that would become a hallmark of Soviet launch vehicles. The R-7 wasn't just a weapon, it was the vehicle that would launch Sputnik into orbit, sparking the space race. On October 4, 1957, under Korolev's direct leadership, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. Weighing 83.6 kilograms, the beeping metallic sphere stunned the world and signaled the dawn of the space age. The event shocked American policymakers and triggered massive investment in science, education, and aerospace, culminating in NASA's formation. Following this triumph, Sputnik 2 was launched in November 1957 with Laika, the first animal in orbit. Though Laika did not survive, the mission proved that life could endure microgravity and helped pave the way for human spaceflight. These feats cemented Korolev's reputation within the Soviet elite. Though his identity remained secret to the public, he gained greater political clout and funding, which he directed toward the next great goal: putting a human in space. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin blasted off aboard Vostok 1, becoming the first human to orbit Earth. The capsule completed a single orbit in 108 minutes and returned safely. Gagarin became an instant global hero. But it was Korolev who had made the flight possible. Korolev designed the Vostok capsule to be simple, reliable, and heavily automated, given the uncertainties of spaceflight. The mission's success proved the feasibility of human space travel and was a propaganda coup for the USSR. Yet, even amid success, Korolev was plagued by stress, overwork, and political rivalries. His relationship with Valentin Glushko remained fraught, particularly over disputes about engine designs and the use of hypergolic fuels. Korolev continued to innovate. The Voskhod Program followed Vostok and included the first multi-person crew and the first spacewalk by Alexei Leonov in 1965. These missions were rushed for political effect and pushed the limits of safety. Meanwhile, Korolev was obsessed with beating the Americans to the moon. He began development of the N-1 moon rocket, but progress was slow and plagued by technical and bureaucratic obstacles. The Soviet leadership, now led by Leonid Brezhnev, offered inconsistent support and diverted resources to military projects. Korolev's health was also failing. The years of Gulag abuse, combined with relentless stress and heart issues, were taking their toll. On January 14, 1966, Korolev died from complications during surgery to remove a cancerous tumor. He was 59. His passing stunned the Soviet space community. Without his leadership, the N-1 program faltered and was eventually cancelled. The USSR never made it to the moon. Only after his death was Korolev's identity made public. He was buried with state honors at the Kremlin Wall necropolis, alongside other Soviet luminaries. Over time, his contributions became fully recognized, and he was lionized as the father of practical astronautics. Institutes, research centers, and even lunar craters were named after him. His former design bureau, OKB-1, evolved into RSC Energia, still central to Russian space efforts today. Sergei Korolev's impact is almost impossible to overstate. Without him, the Soviet Union would not have led the early space race. Without him, the world might not have seen humans orbit Earth in the 1960s. His life stands as a testament to resilience, genius, and the indomitable spirit of exploration. Despite imprisonment, political obstruction, and fragile health, he transformed science fiction into reality. Though the Americans won the race to the moon, Korolev won the race to the stars. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.